Hello, and thank you for joining us to hear Josh Krichefski give his inaugural speech as IPA President. As Director General of the IPA, I've seen firsthand that the role of IPA President is an ever-important position that champions our industry and ensures that we, as the IPA, remain the power behind the practitioners. As we welcome Josh, I'd also like to thank Dougie for the time, passion and creativity he's given to the position over the last 2 years. We're all excited to have Josh on board to help us champion our industry and the people that make it great as we navigate the challenges that lie ahead. I'm pleased to say that after we've heard Josh's first address as IPA President, co-founder and editor of creative Salon, Sonoo Singh, will be interviewing Josh live. So please do ask any questions you have for him in the chat box on the right of your screen. For any of your colleagues that couldn't make this session, don't fear, the recording will be shared after the event. After the pandemic, Dougie sought to 10x or 10 times the industry with his agenda. Now let's hear Josh's plans for the year ahead. Over to you, Josh.
Good afternoon. As your newly elected IPA President, I want to start by stressing how much I appreciate the privilege this role gives me to serve our wonderful industry. I believe the role of President is to honour and continue the work that's been done while setting a forward-looking agenda that will keep the IPA and our industry relevant in a changing world. Congratulations to Julian Douglas, my predecessor, whose boundless energy has led him to achieve so much in his 2 years. My favourite of his initiatives was the Pitch Positive Pledge. Dauntingly big shoes to fill. I'm sure, like me, Dougie was enticed into our industry because of its potential to have a profound effect on our country, our economy and our culture, and because it has always attracted the best people and nurtured the finest talent. I know I've worked with some truly gifted people. And yet today, advertising isn't always trusted or seen as relevant. And so, while of course we have amazing talent in our industry, it's getting harder to attract the brightest and the best. Our people are everything, and we need them to keep joining. And that's why, during my presidency, the spotlight will be on people. The IPA has made big progress in professionalising our industry. In framing my agenda, I want to bring some of that professionalism into what we do for our people. So my agenda is quite simply people first. Nothing new there, you may say. And you're right, because we haven't really solved the issue. It's no coincidence that the Ad Association is looking into this too from a cross-industry perspective. There's clearly nothing more important, and I want us to solve it. Think back to the day you first came into advertising. Weren't you excited? I know I was, a young, impressionable TV buyer. My ponytail may have gone, but I still carry the excitement with me. Fast forward to the recent VCCP and APG reports, and what do we find? Do people leaving education today consider advertising an attractive career option? Not many of them do. It's a reputation challenge, which has got tougher over time, according to the trust survey commissioned by the AA, IPA and ISBA. My agenda is intended to meet the challenge head on. It's an agenda designed to firstly help to continue to attract the best talent out there by reframing our cultural and societal relevance in modern Britain, opening eyes. Secondly, to help retain and nurture talent by being more inclusive than ever, opening hearts, and to look after the well-being of everyone by focusing on and supporting initiatives that promote positive mental health, opening minds. So how do we open eyes and continue to attract the best talent into our industry? Well, it isn't just our reputation. We also have a category challenge. See, many people believe London is where the entire industry is located, and so it's not for them because they can't afford to live there. And we have a brand challenge. They don't believe they possess the skills or know how to get into the industry. Let's start with the reputation challenge. I suspect some of you joined the industry, as I did, at a time when advertising was regarded as one of the most relevant and desirable of all industries. Brilliant creative work helped to shape Britain's identity and culture. So what's changed? And why are fewer people even contemplating careers in advertising? Well, I'm sure ad bombardment isn't helping, but also Part of the answer could lie in a perception of advertising's diminishing cultural relevance. In fact, culturally influential moments are vanishingly small. They do still exist, but they were really the hallmark of the 80s and 90s. They almost defined advertising to the wider public. Some of my favourite ads being the Guardian point of view ad, featuring a skinhead chasing a businessman down the street to save him from getting crushed. Or Maureen Lipman's Beatty, congratulating her grandson Anthony on his ology. Fun fact, the ology boy in the BT ad was in fact my brother. You can imagine my teen years spent very much in his shadow. Anyway, moving swiftly on. That was then, you may say. Well, I say advertising is no less significant today. We still have brilliant creative work. My wife doesn't cry at weddings, but she still cries at ads. But are we promoting advertising's cultural relevance and the important role it plays in society today? Well, we've begun to, with school leavers, with the nationwide agency open day for schools, Advertising Unlocked. But could we do more? We should consider what's important to people, and not just the younger generations. More people of all generations want to change the world for the better. The good news is the impact our industry has on the world is more positive than ever. Yes, we help brands grow and we sell stuff, but most brands are more purposeful than ever. The brands boasting the fastest growth are those compelled by a strong sense of responsibility to drive progress in sustainable lifestyles and inclusive action. And we are in the unique position to help them communicate this. What could be more attractive than working in an industry with such a pivotal role in the future well-being of both society and the planet? We also have a role to play in national renewal and shaping how the economy grows. We need to find ways to amplify this positive aspect of our work. And this leads us to our brand challenge. It so happens that I'm the first IPA president from a media background since David Patterson, 9 presidents ago. The way people consume media and buy things has changed during that time. Fragmentation has made those water cooler moments less frequent, and so the relevance of our work might not always be so apparent. These days, data, ads, reels, algorithms, culture, AI, curators, context, all collide. Our job is to harmonise all of these elements. Sarah Golding embarked on this with her Magic and the Machines agenda as IPA president in 2017. Today, ChatGPT and other generative AI models are now turning this potential into a mass participation reality. So advertising is not only still relevant, it's arguably more interesting than ever. To attract the best talent, we must shine a light on the range of specialisms in our industry, from strategists to art directors, from data scientists to machine learning specialists, from VR programmers to copywriters. Our jobs have all had an update. Our image needs one too. We do this for our clients every day. It's time to focus on ourselves. Could the IPA's brilliant training courses be more practically applied to focus on this? Of course, many age-old marketing principles are still relevant today, but how we put them into practice needs to be constantly under review. Could the way we investigate effectiveness evolve with the times too? And as for our category challenge, should London really be seen as the centre of the industry or merely a centre? Ask anyone working in Manchester, Bristol, Cardiff or Edinburgh, they'll give you a straight answer. So, what are we going to do about our image? Can the IPA do more to sell the story? Yes, we can. Under my presidency, in collaboration with the Ad Association, we will task our industry's talent with a programme to promote our industry at this time, by shining a light on the breadth and range of specialisms and demonstrating how advertising's evolved, and by bringing to life the important role advertising will have in Britain's economic renewal. We're already partnering with TikTok content creators to demonstrate the variety of roles in the industry. Through Advertising Unlocked and our Talent Task Force, we will amplify the more purposeful aspects of our work. On to my second objective, opening hearts and ensuring everyone we attract feels they belong in our industry. We need diversity and crucially equity across all parameters, including age, gender, ethnicity, disability, neurodiversity, LGBTQ+, social class, and life stage. Of course, DE&I is a societal opportunity as well as an ad industry one. But in our profession, where our greatest asset is our people, and where divergent thought powers creativity, we should aim to be at the forefront of progressive change and reflect modern Britain. We are doing better in this respect. 8 years ago, as IPA President, Tom Knox set D&I targets. The metrics have improved year on year. The recent IPA census data points to more women in leadership positions and increased recruitment of people from ethnic minorities at all levels. This is positive and we should celebrate it. The I-List, All In, BRIM, among other industry initiatives, have been excellent moves forward, but there's still a huge amount to do. We must take a cold, hard look at our businesses and ask ourselves if our own perceptions of an inclusive culture are playing out as we believe they are. Yes, we're hiring more diverse groups, but are we retaining diverse talent and promoting them effectively up through the ranks? I'm not sure we are. This isn't down to an absence of positive intent. I believe we all want everyone to feel they belong, but I don't think we're achieving it. Everyone needs to feel that they belong, that they're seen, and they're safe. So what more can we do? We need to surface and importantly share the best training and inclusive practices available and make them accessible to everyone. Some of us are further down the road on this than others, but we need to bring our industry colleagues along with us. We should take inspiration from experts in all fields and normalise best practice in our agencies and with our clients and partners. So how will we do this? Well, firstly, we're going to build on the IPA's Talent and Diversity Hub and create an inclusivity resource hub that provides and updates the very best training courses and practices to create inclusive working cultures, including training across each of the areas I mentioned before. The IPA D&I certificate is excellent value, but currently has a 4% uptake. I will ask IPA Council to approve that by the end of my presidency, all IPA member agencies have committed to a minimum of 15% of staff complete the certificate, and I'll ask that all member agencies encourage all their people to enter the All-In survey. Finally, we will create a programme inviting our IPA I-List role models to be industry ambassadors for change, promoting their work beyond IPA events to the industry media and in the mainstream media. And now to our third area, opening minds and supporting the positive mental health and well-being of our people. Mental health calls to NABs rose year on year by 31%. Compared to pre-pandemic figures, this is a 74% increase. Burnout is affecting everyone one way or another, so we need to address this and tackle it together. Those who know me will know I've been advocating for positive workplace mental health for many years. More recently, since the start of the pandemic, I've been spearheading a task force of mental health organisations, academics, businesses and government to explore legislation for companies to provide a minimal standard of support for employees. I believe this will happen eventually, but it's still quite a long way off. In the meantime, I want our industry to be trailblazers in this space. So mental health will feature prominently in my People First agenda. I'll be asking for a commitment from all IPA member agencies to sign up to a simple 3-point framework to provide a new era of mental health to our agencies. The 3-point framework can be broken down as 1, empower, 2, support, and 3, prevent. We can empower our people and build mental health awareness by supplying relevant training, encouraging openness and dialogue around the topic, and listening to our people to identify workplace stressors. We can support our people by creating the right working conditions to promote mental well-being, by implementing proven interventions, making appropriate accommodations for people struggling, and fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptation. And we can help to prevent future problems by recognising stress points before they happen, creating inclusive workplace cultures and not toxic ones, and monitoring workplace mental health and transparently sharing the results with our staff. Stress, depression and anxiety are responsible for 44% of all cases of work-related ill health. This three-point framework will provide a win for individuals who get more support, for our agencies who keep people happier and more productive, for the industry as we will lose fewer days, and for society as happier workplaces will improve our whole lives. Now, I cannot expect our member agencies to sign up without ensuring that the IPA provide guidance and support to them. So like the Inclusivity Hub I mentioned earlier, the IPA will commit to providing a resource hub for a new era of workplace mental health. Here, all the best resources, training courses and toolkits will be made available to support our member agencies deliver on this three-point framework. Now, I'm aware mental health and well-being is a noisy space to navigate, so we will aim to only support credible and proven service providers. Now, I know I haven't held back on identifying the challenges, but I do feel positive, as we are an industry of problem solvers. I feel so fortunate to work in this business and honoured to have the opportunity to serve the industry in this role. We don't have factories, trucks, manufactured goods. Our people are everything. It's their brilliance and imagination which is what makes us who and what we are. And that's why we must look after them. None of these items on my People First agenda should be used to differentiate us from each other. They're fundamentals that should unite and define us and our great industry. As President of the IPA, I ask us all to come together to bring about progress. So, I hope you'll support my People First agenda and use all our brilliant minds to attract the top talent from all corners, make them feel they belong in this incredible industry, and provide them with the best possible mental health and well-being support. Let's take the steps needed to create the most inclusive workplaces imaginable. And let's support a resilient, thriving and mentally healthy workforce and empower them to write the future of advertising. Thank you.
Hi, welcome Josh. Congratulations on your People First agenda. So Josh, the first thing I would like to say is a hugely ambitious plan that you have to try and reframe advertising in terms of its cultural, social, indeed economic value and relevance in modern Britain as well. I suppose, do you think your time as the IPA President would actually allow you to achieve what you've set out to do?
Well, 2 years is not a very long time. So I think it would be fair to say that to achieve what I'm trying to achieve in that 2 years is quite ambitious. But I think what I can do in the 2 years is create the frameworks and set out the resources to enable the leaders of the agencies that are members of the IPA to be able to put in place the things that I want to put in place to enable us to make sustainable change in our industry. So, like anything really, as soon as you take your eye off the ball something, it goes by the wayside. So I think everything that I've set out, the 3 different kind of key main agenda items I've set out, require focus. Nothing that I'm actually talking about is new, really. They're all things that have been spoken about before. But as long as people focus on them from now and continue to moving forward way beyond my presidency, then I think we'll be successful and hopefully we'll make a dent in the areas that I want to make a dent.
Yeah, I think the 2 words that you talk about are quite relevant in terms of one is providing focus, and indeed in terms of what you're trying to do to enable the leadership and the agencies as well. I suppose the last few years, they've almost forced agencies to be doing the right thing as well. And there seems to be almost this kind of heightened consciousness, not just in leadership, but otherwise as well, in terms of how do we make our industry much more relevant, and whether it boils down to looking after talent, trying to recruit people from not just London, but outside of London, having much more of sort of pastoral care towards their employees. And obviously looking at how to be better partners to their clients as well. So there's a lot going on there, and agencies seem to be sort of stepping in the right direction. I suppose within that context, do you think that something like the IPA still has relevance?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. Like you've made a really good point, actually, which is that it's tough being a leader of any business, actually, whether it's in our industry and other businesses as well, or even a manager, even a kind of a middle manager, really, in our industry, because the job is no longer just about kind of driving growth. It's also about many of the things that I talk about in my agenda, you know, and sustainability, and you know, lots of purpose-driven things are part of the job of leadership and management these days, and so it's quite difficult. And also, I think that you get a lot of soapbox dictators who sort of, you know what I mean, who are always dictating that we need to be this, we need to be that, we need to do more of this, but not with much kind of help or guidance as to how. Mm-hmm. And I think really that's what I'm trying to achieve with this agenda. And that's, I guess, what I believe the role of the IPA can be around the areas that I've talked about, particularly around mental health and inclusion. And also, I think the role, that, you know, as I've talked about in the first agenda item, which is around attracting talent into the industry, yeah. I think the IPA's got a really important role to play there as well. But yeah, it's very much, I think the way, when I was asked to do this, you know, and it was a great honour to be asked, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do? I sort of felt like, look, our jobs are tough. We're all very busy. We're all stressed. No one's got any time. So the best thing I can do is try and help with that, really, and try to sort of provide guidance and support, which is really what leadership's about, honestly. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this agenda. Hopefully it's come through in the speech, but it's probably quite a lot to take in as well. So yeah, that's the idea, you know, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, obviously a couple of things to unpick from here. But one of the things that did strike me when you were making your speech earlier today was also the fact that you talk about collaboration with other industry bodies as well. Do you want to slightly expand on that as to exactly what you mean by that? Yeah,
I mean, there's loads of stuff that I'd like to collaborate on, really, and there were some things that I included in the speech and some things that I didn't. So I did include with I mean, I'd love to do more collaboration with the Advertising Association, but also with ISBA. And the it's no coincidence, you know, the Advertising Association has set out an agenda around talent as well, because there's nothing more important right now, I would say, in our industry. And so I'm very keen for us to collaborate with the Advertising Association on attracting talent and actually running a campaign to attract talent from all around the country into our industry. I'd also, you know, I would love to be able to work with the Advertising Association on my mental health agenda as well, actually. I feel like it's something that doesn't need to just be within agencies, but could also be across the whole industry. So I'd love to talk to them about that. I think when it comes to ISBA, I love the Pitch Positive pledge that Dougie led, and I'm interested in, you know, potentially exploring what more we can do with ISBA around creating, I don't know, like exploring how we can improve rules of engagement of how we work. I think, you know, pitches are a big part of what we do, but we also work day in, day out with clients, and I think that it's really important that we have really strong behaviours and ways that we work together, and I wonder if there's stuff that we can do to explore how those working relationships work and how we can optimise the way that we work together to ensure, you know, fantastic working relationships on both sides. So those are two areas that I'd love to explore. There's probably going to be others over the 2 years, but I think collaboration with both bodies are really important. I think we're really close already. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
You've obviously set yourself a lot to do in these 2 years. Can I ask you about the mental health that you talked about in your speech as well? Obviously something very close to your heart as well. We've got NABS that does some fantastic work in this area. I just wondered, why did you think that the IPA really needs to sort of tackle it head on?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, NABS does brilliant work around mental health. NABS does really good training around resilience as well. And actually, I personally have had experience with NABS. When I remember much earlier in my career, I called upon NABS for a bit of support, and I just think they're an amazing resource for our industry, and I support them wholeheartedly. I think in terms of mental health, what the role that NABS plays is very much around the individual, and is a really important role. And I think the way that I saw the IPA and the role the IPA can have around mental health is much more for our member agencies and for the businesses. So how can we support at an institutional level with companies so that they can make systemic change in those companies, but also how can we create sort of a best-in-class way of doing things that everybody can adopt, no matter what size of business you're running, no matter where you are in the country. Something that the idea is, the ambition is really to create what I've called a kind of a three-pronged framework for all agencies to adopt, and for it to be quite easy for them to adopt it. But obviously it's really important for us, if they're going to do that, to be able to provide our member agencies with the resources to be able to help them do that. And so that's why I want to have a kind of resource hub for a new era of workplace mental health, so that all agencies can find all the best-in-class training and resources and toolkits to be able to adopt in their companies, to be able to so that they can sign up to what I'm asking for.
Yeah. There are loads of questions coming in, so I might just sort of dive straight into some of those first. I love your People First agenda. It is so relevant and progressive. Bring it on. But have you road tested it with clients at all?
I mean, I think that yes. I think the basis of the agenda that I have put in the speech is based on something that I've been working on for a few years, which is around legislation and how government could potentially create policy so that businesses above a certain size would be able to provide what I'm calling a minimal standard of mental health care for their people. And really, the three-pronged framework of empower, support, and prevent is based on that kind of thing that I've been working on for the last 3 years. And I've been working with different forward-thinking businesses, some of whom are my clients actually, on that. And it's very much, they all buy into the principles of what we're trying to do here because it kind of makes sense. But I'm very purposefully, with this agenda, doing it for agencies, for the IPA, rather than saying all clients should be doing this as well. I mean, potentially there'll be a broader conversation that we could have with clients, but I want to focus on agencies right now.
Getting it right.
Yeah, getting it right with agencies.
On that note, actually, it's just a good segue into this question, which says, do you think this is too internally focused when the industry needs championing beyond this?
Yeah, so which element?
I think they're talking about your agenda, so the People First agenda.
Okay.
Do you first of all actually buy into this question that it is quite internally focused?
No, because I think that the first agenda item is around projecting the relevance of advertising to society and to the outside world. So not just our industry, but to everybody out there. So that's why I want to do a campaign. And when I say campaign, I'm talking about ad campaign, but also beyond ad campaign, to people who are in all industries, not just school leavers, but people in other industries, to attract them to our industry. Because I think that, as I said in my speech, I think we're hugely relevant, but I think that it's because the water cooler moments have become fewer and far between. Sometimes it's harder for us to demonstrate our relevance to the outside world. And therefore, that's why my first agenda item is very much on focusing on the outside world and really talking about the relevancy and kind of the diversity of skills that we have in our industry, that really, whatever you do, whatever you're interested in, there's a role relevant for you in our industry. So I think it's quite an externally facing. Obviously, the mental health and inclusion element of them are more internally facing for our industry and our agencies. But I've tried to get the balance right of both external and internal.
I suppose the question also goes to the heart of the matter, is how will this then make the industry much more relevant to the outside world as well? Is how will it champion the industry better at a time when trust in the industry is at its lowest as well?
Yeah.
So, will this allow it to be more purpose fit for the future?
Yeah, listen, I think, as I talked about before, I think we are purpose fit for the future. Like, I just don't think we're great at selling that story externally. So, as I talked about before, it's a fact that the fastest growing brands over the past 10 years have been the ones that are purpose driven. And the vast majority of brands are purpose driven now, and we're in a kind of unique position to be able to communicate that to the outside world through the advertising and communications that we do. However, I don't think we do a brilliant job of banging that drum to the outside world, and I think we need to do more. So what I hope is that I'm not saying that we're going to, I think we are relevant. I think it's just about kind of showing that to people, and I think that's the job. I think that's the job of my first pillar, really.
There's also a question around climate crisis as well. They say, Josh, your people-first approach is excellent. However, given the ongoing climate crisis, does sustainability have a place within your presidential agenda? 100%.
I mean, sustainability is a huge part of the IPA. Is very much working very hard on sustainability. We have a carbon calculator. There's a lot of great work being done. I wanted to focus the agenda on people. I couldn't focus it on kind of all of the important purposes that are out there, and so the work that the IPA continue to do with sustainability will not change. Same with all of our agencies. I mean, the company that I work for, Group M, we've got a huge focus on responsible investment and sustainability around that. I know other groups have got similar things that they do. That's not going away. It's just there needed to be focus for this agenda, and so I've purposely focused it on people because I think it's a really important thing to be focusing on right now.
Talking of another focus, which, and rightly so, is inclusion and diversity in our industry. There's a question here, again, they say, love your people-first approach. When it comes to DE&I, it is clear that diversity in leadership is quite low. They're talking particularly about leadership. How do you intend to tackle this?
Well, I mean, hopefully I talked about it a bit, but I think it's a really good question. So my feeling is that that's right. Diversity at senior level is lacking, honestly. I think we're pretty good. We're getting better. We've seen this in the data that's come through IPA census recently, that we are getting better at hiring diverse talent from ethnic minorities across the industry. So that's a thumbs up in terms of improvement. I think we're seeing more women in leadership positions than we have done in the past. So that, again, that's a good thing that we should celebrate. But I don't think we're brilliant at bringing people from all the diverse backgrounds that I talked about in my speech up through the ranks of our agencies. And I think that's not because we don't want to. I think that actually what's going on is we have an unrealistic view on what inclusion really looks like in our businesses. Mm-hmm. So if you asked any agency leader, they'd tell you that they're aiming to run an inclusive culture and business, but we're coming from a world where we don't really understand what that looks like, and we don't really understand the experience of diverse talent in our agencies. And so my feeling is that they might come into the business, but then they might not feel like they belong. And there's a lot of training and good inclusive practices that we're starting to learn about more and more year after year. And we've adopted in our business some really strong allyship training and conscious inclusion for managers that's definitely helped. But as soon as you take your eye off the ball, if you're not investing in this stuff, it just falls away, because we're talking about kind of systemic change actually. So it requires a real focus, and that's why I think it has to be an agenda item on this under my presidency, and that's why we want to create an inclusivity hub where we can highlight where all the best training and inclusive practices are and surface them and make them accessible to all of our member agencies. And I feel like inclusion's been something that the agencies, including our own, have used to kind of differentiate ourselves from other agencies and actually to be more competitive than other agencies, because we're trying to attract diverse talent. But actually, I think as an industry, this is something that should really unite us. And I think that we need to surface all the best practices, share them with each other, and try and make it more commonplace that all of our agencies are more inclusive, that we're training people to make sure that they're more inclusive, and that more people from different backgrounds feel that they belong in our agencies. So it's critical for the success of our industry moving forward, I think.
There are a couple of questions which sort of talk around this issue as well. So just taking some of those sentiments. From what you've said, I mean, there's been enough talk, there's been enough conversation, there have been enough panels indeed. The IPA has its own I list as well. And the fact that we're not really seeing any kind of sort of, you know, any answers to some of these very big systemic problems, as you said. I mean, what is it that we're not doing right as an industry? I mean, there are all kind of schemes available. There are all kind of outreach programs available. Do you think, sort of 5 years from now, we will see a different shape of industry when it comes to inclusion?
I really hope so. I mean, I feel like, I want to be really clear. I think there's a lot of really good work actually happening. So I don't think we should be kind of flogging ourselves for doing. I do think there's a lot of good work, and where there's focus and investment, agencies are doing well. And I think, you know, if I look around my workplace, it looks and feels very different from where it did 10 years ago. The people that we've got in the business is definitely different. You know, it's definitely more diverse. But you have to carry on doing that. And to see those people coming up through the ranks, you have to really focus on it and give it the attention that it requires. And I think we have to do that across the board, across all of our agencies. And I, you know, as I said earlier, I think some are further along the road than others, but we need to help each other come along. And I think I've sat in council meetings where it's been discussed, and I've sometimes thought, this should be, some of the businesses that are talking about this should be further along than they are. And that's why it's become a focus for me. And when I took on this, this great honour to be president, I really wanted it to be front and centre of the agenda.
There's another question, because obviously you talk about the accessibility, or indeed the inaccessibility, because as an industry we are so London-centric, and you made that quite a focus of your agenda too. So someone actually asked the question, how do you actually see members outside of London contributing to the message that advertising isn't purely a London-centric industry?
Well, we've got city heads across the UK, and I'm going to work really closely with them on different things that we should put in place to ensure that happens, and that we're actually doing stuff locally. There is work happening, by the way, and a lot of agencies have got London-based agencies have also got agencies elsewhere in the UK. But I think we need to make more of it and actually attract people more to those agencies in employment, not necessarily to come to the UK. Equally, I think there's more that. I think the way that we often do events in London, and actually we can be doing them through technology, we can do them a lot more virtually, and I think we need to do that more and work out what events can work virtually more, including council meetings as well. So yeah, I think there is good stuff, but I think there's more that can be done. And when I started working on the speech and sort of thinking about the agenda, I did a couple of meetings with future leaders from different agencies where I sort of talked broadly about where I was heading with it. And there were two kind of, that I called them challenger board meetings. In both meetings, it really came up as a theme that was really important to people outside of London. So it's definitely something that I think we need to be focusing more on. We can really be, get very stuck in our London bubble, and there's a lot more going out there. If we're talking about bringing in diverse talent, there's brilliance in every corner of this country that we need to be bringing into our agencies. So it's a really important focus.
There's another big question that has been asked before I ask you the final question, and that is, Do you think there are any barriers for other agency leaders to embrace your vision? If so, what are they?
I suppose the main barrier really is just how busy everybody is. You know, I don't think, I can't believe that there's anything, you know, I don't want this to sound naive or arrogant, but I don't believe I'm saying anything that's particularly controversial. I think most leaders would say, yeah, I kind of buy into the principles of what you're saying, because ultimately I'm just trying to achieve the right thing for our industry. But we're all very busy. And you know, what I didn't want to do was go out there and talk about something that was going to be burdensome to other leaders. I want to talk about something that, and facilitate change in our industry, but you know, genuinely be a facilitator of that and enable that change. So I think that's the job that myself with all our teams at the IPA need to really work on, is how do we make accessible all of the right resources available to leaders so that they can execute change in their agencies without it feeling burdensome on them.
Brilliant segue to my last question, Josh, is your entire language, and indeed the agenda, is all around kindness, around people, around collaboration. And as I said, the language that you use, you know, you talk about enabling people, facilitating people. You also have a reputation of being a very kind, generous, you know, ultimately a nice man. And that's how I know you as a nice man as well. But are you also prepared to fight? Are you prepared to fight for the agency, for the advertising industry? I mean, do you think you have that in you as well?
I think, I'm not sure that my family would say I'm that nice a man, but I don't think you can be a successful agency leader without being a fighter. I mean, we are in a fiercely competitive industry, and so I'm a fiercely competitive person, and I am a fighter, and I will always fight. You know, if you asked any of my colleagues or any of my clients, you know, I fight for them, I fight for our agency, and yeah, as president, I'm here prepared to be fighting for our industry, so absolutely.
And what would you like your legacy to be, Josh?
I mean, listen, I want the things I talked about around inclusivity, mental health, you know, a strong, thriving workforce, and an industry that people look at externally and go, that is an industry I want to be part of. I want what I'm doing to be the beginning of that, you know, and I'm not saying that's going to be my legacy. I find the question a bit embarrassing when you talk about legacy. Like, I think we all have responsibility to enable that and achieve that. But I certainly hope that this 2 years is 2 years where we create a real platform that enables us to achieve those three things, you know, in a meaningful and sustainable way. So that's really what I want to achieve, and I hope that you know, together we can make that happen.
Brilliant. On that note, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who was listening to us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.